right. Welcome everyone to the August.NET user group in Sydney. This is going to be a great evening. First, we have a presentation by me on ChatGPT and the API underneath it. There's going to be a huge learning curve for you. I'm certain that you're going to learn plenty because we've been doing software development for a long time, and this is very different from everything we've been doing, okay? And I have been in doing presentations on cool technologies forever. Been speaking for, I don't know, close to 30 years on so many different topics, and this is kind of the coolest API I've ever come across, and businesses are going to be crazy. They're going to be crazy confused and crazy excited to find out how to use this well. Now, after me, we have a huge night because we have the Aussie girls playing England, and we are nearly in the finals, so that should be very exciting. Okay. So I gave this talk in Oslo just a month or so ago, and in Newcastle, and things changed, and a few things I told them the wrong thing, but anyway, we've fixed that, so you'll hear the right thing. All the Norwegians will be doing it the wrong way. I did prepare by trying to become a Viking before I went over there. I pulled out my cool Viking hat on stage. It's like pulling out thongs, I guess, in Australia. And I'm not a graphic designer, but 10 minutes before that presentation, got onto Midjourney and made an image to make my slides look cool. And I'm just amazed how easy it is to do cool stuff these days. All right. So here is how I've structured tonight's talk. I just want to talk about AI news because it's always changing. And we've just updated this. I then want to just talk about just using ChatGPT and going through rules to being like giving it better commands, being a prompt engineer. And then I want to talk about getting up to speed with what's under the covers. And then I want to introduce you to a new term, which you probably won't be familiar with, which is called embeddings. And then I want to tell you how we have used it in a sample scenario, which is pretty applicable to most businesses. And then let's talk about the future, and then let's watch the soccer. All right, this is me. I'm just amazed just looking here, like, you know, I've got some hardcore engineers in the audience, but then I have Oscar, not specifically a developer, wants to use it for his company. I've even got one of the first people that ever saw SSW all those years ago when we're basically, you know, one or two people in the garage, you know, in Forestville. So that's pretty amazing that this topic is bringing out so many people. I'm a chief architect here at SSW. I am also one of a few Microsoft regional directors in Australia. There's a few of those in every country. And I blog at adamcogan.com if you want to see any of my stuff. All right. This is proof I was a real Viking. There I am. I think I'm the best looking Viking there. I certainly tanned up for the occasion. And there I am in full glory when I turned up. Camilla took that photo, I think. All right. Okay, you can get that out of your minds now. I have spent a lot of time over the years building these rules. All our best practices in our company, we document these. You can see how we work here. Most of it is open. We obviously have a lot of internal rules as well, which we don't make public. But there, look at this, nearly 3,000. Okay, since I took this screenshot in Oslo, we've exceeded 3,000. Okay, how many people here have seen one of our rules? Okay, I think I have about 80% of the audience, which is good. Okay. Now, I had a funny email today. I had an email from an old employee in Melbourne who sent me an email, and he said something like, I just wanted to let you know that my favorite rules I still use are as per our conversation and the done video rule, which you might remember when I was working for you, I hated those rules. And now I run a team, I love them. So that was, thanks Brent for that. All right. So I did this in Oslo, and of course we're always looking for people, the best people all around the world. And I played this video, so I'll play it for you guys for a bit of fun. But this is how we tried to talk the Norwegians into joining us.
G'day, g'day. Keen as mustard to see you down in the lucky country. Welcome to Australia. Let me show you around. I reckon yous are gonna love it here. Let's take a gander. From Bunnings to Bondi, Daintree to desert, to a really big rock. Australia has something for everyone. You could visit the Opera House and take a walk along Sydney Harbour. Enjoy our unique wildlife while exploring our national parks. Then eat them. Go surfing in the Sunshine Coast or catch a tram in Melbourne's vibrant nightlife. Whatever you choose, we'll be ready to throw another snag on the barbie for yous. Australia, take a punt. Just don't be a
All right. Anyway, that's our introduction. Thanks, Cookie. He did that with the TV team. All right. So if you want, you can scan this, and at the end of the presentation, I'll give you another QR code. We're always sending out these presents like bands and keep cups and lots of cool things. So if you earn enough points, you get those. You'll get 500 points, I think, for this talk. All right, this is how I've structured my talk, and I'm going to jump in to the AI news first. And the very first thing that you should be doing is if you look at the homepage of your phone, on your homepage of your phone, there should be an app there, and that's a ChatGPT app. I think the homepage of your phone should be sacred. Only the very best apps make it there, and move off the rest. And do your, like I help lots of people. And I was sitting next to someone on a plane. We were chatting, we were talking and showing. And then they showed me their phone, and everything on their homepage they didn't use. Like they were flicking through to find their stuff. So I helped them move all the right things that they use all the time to their homepage and put ChatGPT right there, and it's going to be awesome. Yes, Greg. Is that a rule? No, it's not a rule, but it should be a rule. Very good. Okay, so that is a great thing. Now, the other thing you probably should be considering is paying for it. It's $20 a month US, and you get a lot of extra stuff. How many people have installed this app on their phone already? Whoa, over half, I think. And how many people are paying for GPT? Well, I'd say less than 10%. Okay. So that's the first thing to do. Now, the next thing that you should know is there's a lot of extra extensions, okay? And these extensions are phenomenal only for paid subscribers. They do a lot of stuff. First of all, they give you better answers. Believe me when I tell you, ChatGPT 4 is miles better than 3.5. 3.5 gives fast responses, but it often lies. And you could basically say it's fast, but stupid, okay? GPT-4 gives slower responses, but it's intelligent, and it doesn't make mistakes and give you bogus answers. It does make mistakes every now and then, very infrequently. Of course, that makes it even harder because you get so used to believing it, but you've just got to always watch out for this because it's a language generator rather than a fact generator. Now, have a look at this one. This is a new one, Code Interpreter. You can throw up there an Excel spreadsheet or, a bunch of data, and it will just give you back a chart with a little summary. So imagine throwing up an Excel spreadsheet and go, what do I make of this Excel spreadsheet? It's just a bunch of numbers. It'll go, well, it's telling you it's the top 10 countries by nominal GDP, and the United States is first, China's second, Japan's third. And then it will, in plain language, here's a bar graph showing the top 10 countries. So it it will help you in work out very quickly what's in there. You can upload a financial report of a company that you're about to invest in and throw it up there and go, GPT, what do you say about this company? And it will give you some basic facts. All right. In addition, you can put in custom instructions, okay? And every single person at SSW has gone through and used ChatGPT and gone through quite a significant set of exercises and got up to speed with it. Even our non-technical people really like it. And I'm using Yuli as an example. He's the general manager here, right? And he uses it for everything. And I just went and got his just before this presentation. Some of the people here might have been hearing me do it. But I got his custom instruction. My name is Ulysses, and I live in Sydney, Australia. People sometimes call me Yuli. I was born here. I have 2 children, Azalea, born here, and Darius, born here. I have a wife, Jasmine, born here. I'm the general manager of SSW, a custom software development company with 100 employees across 6 offices. Here are the offices. Now, why did he do this? Because each time he asks it questions, it will give him better answers. So if you're asking a question and you're just assuming it knows you're from Sydney, that this is just circumstance, this is what you care about, whatever, you won't be getting as good answers. Now, what I failed to do was ask him and give me some examples of the questions you asked, because some are personal and some are work. So let's have a look at his personal questions. Jasmine? Who's Jasmine? Let me go back. Jasmine is his wife. So GPT knows it's his wife. Jasmine doesn't like the smell of beer on my breath, but I want to kiss her. What can I do? Now, I actually thought he was joking with me, but he really did put this question in because she really did complain. Okay. All right. Maybe you should stop drinking beer. Now, what's the next question? Darius, my son, and it will know Darius's age, so it will give appropriate age-related advice, stole Jasmine's credit card. How can I make sure he knows that's a big deal? Okay? You can be a better parent with GPT. Amazing. Work. Okay, this is where I see him using it all the time. Help me improve this page. Well, it knows what country or what cities we would care about, etc. It's going to give him better advice because what's in a page matters. All right? And he's probably looking at SEO stuff. Help me make a marketing plan to sell generative AI services. Okay? A real question he put through it. Give me strategic advice on how to improve our relationship, our partnership with Microsoft, Duende, Octopus, and Zendesk. Okay? Or maybe he should put this in one by one, but that's the general idea. It will give him back advice. So he's using it as a bit of a business coach. All right? It's making him better. All right, cool. Okay, the other thing I'd like you to be aware of is Microsoft Copilot is coming to all the products. So, for example, you can start, this is essentially Clippy version 2 when you think about it, draft a proposal from yesterday's meeting notes. So during a meeting, you're all maybe using OneNote or Loop or an email, and here's all the notes. So I need to draft something up with a summary of all the rough notes I just took, make it professional and nice, and then you can work with it from there. The same thing when you're generating an email. We just did a brainstorming session in Melbourne where we had the company there and they have to do some investigation for the day, but at 4 p.m. they all produce a PowerPoint and they present to the company what they did. Every presentation, the PowerPoint was generated automatically for them. Okay? So you can incorporate that into your work. You can also get Windows Copilot. It's in preview if you want to get it. You can just ask natural language questions. How do I set this PC up for a presentation? Or how do I put this thing into sleep mode? Anything that you can do on Windows, ask it a question and we'll advise you. All right. Copilot, GitHub has a Copilot as well, and it is helping developers write and fix their code. it is really getting better and better as a code assistant in our tool sets. Obviously, in SSW, this is really important. We're using it all the time. You put a comment in, and then it will generate the code, and you can run with that. I want to give you a little bit of a demo, so let's just have a quick look at a demo.
I can never remember how to get the item.
Now, just notice very carefully, he's putting a comment here. So he's just putting a comment here. He's trying to write some JavaScript.
From the rec. Now, that's not what we want here, but if we give it a little bit more information like this, oh, yeah, it's on the body. Whenever I'm working in React, I tend to forget things like...
So now he's in React, okay?
How do I add an inline style to like an H1 tag? But what you can do is just add a comment with the control/ here and just say an H1 with inline style. You don't even have to spell it.
See, he even spelt it wrong, and it would told him what to do.
Right, and there you go. And it's super helpful in CSS. I can never remember how to highlight a list item when a user mouses over it.
Okay, so what he's doing here is he's asking, how do I highlight a list item? He's talking about a rollover, and there's the output below. CSS is always hard.
But Copilot knows, or things like I can never remember how to get rid of the bullets in the list.
So he's trying to get rid of those bullets.
Again, he'll have this correct. Copilot knows. And finally, the thing that nobody can remember.
So what is he writing here? I want to horizontally and vertically center this. So he wants to get that and move it over here. All right, not an easy thing in CSS. There it is. You can see all the fixes. And there he fixed it. Okay? So, or that is just, you can be way more productive. Now, even in SSW, we have like almost everyone, I'd say over 95% of people that are very pro this. There's a couple of people that really resist it. And I guess the best analogy I can use for you is you wouldn't want to get into a plane with a pilot who is not qualified, right? So you still need developers. You still need developers that are competent. So I wouldn't let this frighten you too much. By the same token, I think you'd prefer to get into a plane with a qualified pilot who's willing to use autopilot, all right, and use the tools around them, because we know it helps take the cognitive load off them, okay, and it has more good than bad. So yeah, that's my take on that. All right. So now Microsoft are looking at these stats all the time to see how it's going in terms of helping people. If you remember Clippy was really annoying, didn't help you do anything. Okay, and there's lots of other things that are like this. They're looking at these stats all the time, and now they have a new fill in the middle paradigm. So what they used to do was look at the code you'd written and predict the code you're going to write, which you just saw in that demo. Now they're looking at the code you've written, they're looking at the code beneath it as well, and they're giving you better suggestions for the stuff in the middle. So this fill in the middle paradigm, when they did that, it was giving way better acceptance rates. So you are taking Microsoft's suggestions more and more with the new fill in the middle paradigm than before, we're just looking at the stuff before. They're getting smarter and smarter. They're looking at these stats all the time. They basically want you to accept their code. All right. I want to introduce you to something else. This is just the news bit, but I do want you to understand Microsoft Fabric is a big deal, okay? And this stuff is coming well out of just the programming side, which is what we're always looking at. But data is really changing a lot. And Microsoft have just released this product called Microsoft Fabric. Just watch a quick video for you. Just 1 minute.
Microsoft Fabric, a unified data analytics platform. One product, one experience, one architecture, one business model. Unified data is stored in one lake, a SaaS data lake for the entire organization. Data is integrated and stored in an open format, allowing one copy to be used to train machine learning models, visualize data, and run SQL queries on the lake and data warehouse. A unified experience brings together all the tools data professionals need: pipelines for orchestrating data movement, experiments for training machine learning models, semantic models for defining key metrics, and much more. And for business users, Fabric brings together data for collaborating and doing ad hoc analysis in Microsoft 365. Unified governance, security, and compliance is built in for all your data. And with Copilot from Microsoft Fabric, AI helps everyone be more productive. Whether it's writing SQL statements, building reports, or setting up automations based on triggers. All your data, all your teams, all in one place.
All right, so that gives you a bit of an idea that unlocking all your data is getting easier and easier with natural language queries. They're advising that companies create a data lake, called a one lake, and that's kind of the direction we're going. So we would create a data warehouse in the past, and maybe many data warehouses for a company to query. Now you just create a data lake with all the unstructured and structured data in there, and that's the way to go. And this is going to be huge. Now it's only just been released. They only just released this at Build. We've been going crazy on it, but I'll play this to you just to get a little bit more info too.
Next generation AI in Microsoft Fabric empowers you to unlock the full potential of your data. With Copilot integrated into every data experience, Microsoft Fabric lets you use natural language.
Yeah, you can see how nice that is. Just show me the top customer sales over the last 24 months. Everybody can type that and get their data.
Bring your data to life. From integrating data to writing code to finding insights and creating reports, new transformative AI experiences work alongside you every step of the way, so you can stay focused on getting value from your data. Copilot helps turn your words into data flows and data pipelines, so you can intelligently integrate data from anywhere. When writing code, Copilot automatically suggests code and entire functions in real time. And Copilot can guide you to create machine learning models to unlock insights in your data. Just by chatting with Copilot, you can visually explore your data to create stunning reports, discover insights, and summarize your data into easy-to-understand text narratives for sharing. With Copilot, you can turn insight into action with triggers that monitor your data and notify users. You can even create your own custom natural language experiences that combine Azure OpenAI models and your organization's data, and easily publish your creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere work gets done. Most importantly, Microsoft Cloud...
All right, so that gives you a bit of an idea. Okay, I really think it's fascinating. It's going to be huge. Now, one other thing I do want to call up, because it's been talked about a bit, Microsoft disbanded their ethical team, right? And it's worth understanding what they did there, because obviously the headlines were alarming, to say the least. But what they decided to do was not have one single team that was doing ethics. So they decided to break that all up and put it across all the different products, because they said a single team or a single discipline tasked with ethical AI was not going to be the winning strategy long term. So they said what we did is we copied what we've done with privacy, security, and accessibility, where we had people of each of those on each product. Okay, so that means like when I've been working with a series of teams at Microsoft myself. And they have people inside those teams just worried about accessibility. Accessibility was a huge thing that as soon as Satya Nadella came into the scene, he added that because he cared about that a lot more than before. So anyway, that's how they're dealing with that. Sam Altman, who's the boss of OpenAI, he's said GPT is not ready for a long time. So, there's nothing worth worrying about in that space. They also announced just recently that they're allowing you to all get GPT-4, the AI, as long as you're paying. So essentially, if you're paying $1, you can use this service, which is big deal. Okay. So that all these wait lists that were stopping us now are open now. And one other piece of news is this llama. Okay. Now this really is amazing. So OpenAI, despite the name, is not very open. Okay. In fact, Microsoft owned 49% of it in what I would consider the deal of the century. And what they've essentially, the deal is, as you earn profits, you return the money we loan to you, and at the end we own 49% of an amazing company, like the fastest startup we've seen. In addition, Microsoft are supporting this open source initiative from Meta, which is Facebook. And so let's see, we've been comparing that with Bard and stuff, but ChatGPT is clearly in our company way more popular than Bard or any of this stuff yet, but you need competition for it to be good. And Elon Musk, well, he's announced this new startup. He's rebranded Twitter to be called X. He's adding all this other stuff. He's made lots of announcements. Honestly, we don't know what he's doing. It's hard to fathom it, but I'm sure something interesting is going to come out of it. All right, so that's the news. I want to move on to ChatGPT and our rules to better prompt engineering, okay? Now, we've talked about that you have that app on your phone, but now you got to give it good commands. So what is NDC conference? Okay, before I go there, I have a look, and it tells me a little bit about it. You should be doing this every time you're asked a question about anything. Okay, what's in the fridge? I've only got chicken and some potatoes and some garlic. What can I make? And it would tell you, well, you can make this, grill fried salad or alfresco or chicken curry or whatever. It will help you with that stuff. Now, of course, let's just say that you have, your partner's a vegan or you've got some other allergy. You'd put that in the custom instructions, what we just talked about. So when you ask it a personal question like this, it will just know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with little kids who don't like spice or whatever. Okay. How can I fix this error? I've got a null reference exception, and it will give you some help. Now, I want you to know this is a bad question. Okay? This is useless. Doesn't have any context. You're going to get jacked from this. So, don't say, how do I fix this bug and put it there? You might get lucky, but it's much better to say, act as a senior software. If you're a beginner, say, act as a junior software engineer, so it knows what level you're at. How can I fix this error when running in, whatever you're doing? I'm running it in C#, it's in Visual Studio, I'm in VS Code or whatever. And then give the error. Always give more information. Okay. By the way, I've just recently found out, stop saying act as, because sometimes it starts thinking that you're asking it to be funny, right? So say you are a senior software engineer. Okay. Try act as a pirate and then ask it some questions. You'll get some funny language. Also, it's very easy to lead this thing. So don't say, isn't it true that electric cars are far better for the environment than traditional gasoline cars? Useless question. Better to say, what are the environmental benefits and drawbacks of electric cars versus traditional combustion cars? All right? Okay, let me go through this. And Yuli and Seth from our company went through a whole bunch of this stuff. They spent a whole lot of time on this, and they got really good at it, and they've got some tips to share here. So, if you think of SQL, you have select, star, from, where, join, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, same type of thing. Role, result, context, intent, and constraint. So the role, act as a professional software developer, give me 5 subjects. I want to email my entire company about this UX problem with search, and I want them to watch this video that I've recorded. I want them to give me feedback. The subject should be 50 characters or less. Then he could also say, and be funny or something, even in a company, like we're a small company of 100 people, you want to generate a good subject to get people to invest their time to watch about and give comments about a problem. Okay, there's just a quick example. Now, I do want you to understand this is a big deal. The marketing assistants in the future, I believe, are just going to become prompt engineers. I also think content writers are just going to be prompt engineers. And social media managers also will be prompt engineers. And graphic designers, based on my experience, and everybody in our company has created images on different platforms, and there's quite a few. DALL-E, Midjourney. We found Midjourney to be the best by and large. You can talk to a few people. You got Seth and some others here. They've all used it, so you can talk to them. But graphic designers are primarily going to become prompt engineers too. And sonographers, they'll be prompt engineers. And pop stars, you can make music with this. Believe it or not, you can make a song with this stuff. And software developers are also going to just become prompt engineers. Okay? Now, woodworkers, they're going to stay woodworkers. They're safe. Okay? All right. Now, I did a search on Seek for prompt engineer. I couldn't believe it, but it says no matching search results. Okay? I promise you, if I do this search in 6 months' time, that will not be the case. And if I search .NET developer right now, I will get 2,000 results. So there's going to be a change real quick. Okay, so let's jump into this. You know, you are a writing coach, GitHub Actions expert, or C# code reviewer, or copywriter, whatever you're doing, and you do different roles every day. You need to say, you are this. Now I'm going to ask you my question. And, you know, don't, for complex tasks, tell it, ask me questions you need for context. Because sometimes you don't know the right questions that it needs to know so it has good context. It will just ask you. I always say, give me the top 10. Or I don't really like the long answers. And I say, be concise. Or use bullet points, because I like clearly reading it. When I'm asking to draft me an email, like you can actually get a long, like sometimes every now and then, someone will add me into a long thread and want my comments. Now, if it's something important, what I like to do is I like to skim it and come up with what I think I'm going to do. I jot down a few points, and then I can paste that email in and say, give me a suggested response, to see if it lines up with what I did. Now, I do think it's better to draft your own points first before you're influenced. I'm a little bit the same. Like when I'm typing something, you know how it has a red squiggly? You can click on that and go accept the spelling suggestion, but I don't like to do that. I like to go, oh, got it wrong. What's wrong? And I take a guess, and then when I get it wrong twice, then I click, all right, what is it? You know, but I like to work it out myself. Don't ask leading questions. Don't enter confidential information. Do not enter confidential information in there. Got to be careful. Now, in respect of that, I might tell you, like, we want to use it on all our projects. So I'm just going to type terms and our terms and conditions. So we had to add this into our terms and conditions. Use of AI technologies. The client authorizes SSW's AI technologies such as ChatGPT as SSW considers appropriate in the conduct of its work. The client must notify SSW if it does not wish to use it in respect of the work. Now, we obviously had a few clients tell us that they didn't want that, but by and large, they're quite good with it. And I think then it comes an internal part of training. Right? So you got to train it not to enter confidential information. Okay? You've got to be careful. Now, you want to chain your prompts together. Once you get good at this, you don't have to do it bit by bit. You can do it in one guide. Create a guide to AI, give a headline and a teaser. You'll see the output. Create 5 subtopics. You'll see the output. Now create 3 AI techniques in each subtopic. It'll give the output. Now, critique all that for usability. So get it to critique what it just generated for you. Okay? Like we create a new course for something, so we use that. So this will give you a nice response. If you get good at prompt engineering, you can get very good results back. Okay? And I have this, thanks to Seth. I have a bunch of these. I'll give these out at the end. believe it or not, we have these do your chatbot ChatGPT prompt stink. We got them on all the toilets here. You might have seen them if you visited the toilets. In fact, you could take them home and put them in your toilets. All right. Excellent. Now, this is good for just normal ChatGPT usage. As a software developer, things get even more specific. So we have a dev edition of that. And these are writing code, debugging and testing code, understanding code, documenting code, refactoring code, code reviews, and other tips. Okay? And this stuff is gold, and it's really helped all of us be better developers. Okay, so and also Seth and Yulia put a whole bunch of stuff together with lots of input from the developers. Rules to Better ChatGPT, prompt engineering. It's awesome. You can have a look at that. You can click on each one. It will give you more information how to use it. Awesome. So there is so many rules up there that it's hard even for me to find them. And I know most of them. I accepted a lot of the pull requests. I wrote all the initial rules for the first 100 or so. And this helps us produce consistent result against, across a lot of software developers. And I think it has been like a really important part of our company. It really starts with Scrum and project management and rules to better meetings and calendars and rules to better email and coding standards and lots of stuff. We've open sourced the whole thing on GitHub, so you can contribute if you want, and you can see that Piers just contributed an hour ago and did something. But yes, it's all here. But the front end that you see is, is there a link here to the rules? There it is. No? Oh no, that's the front end. Okay, so that's the front end project. That's also open sourced. And unless I'm missing something, I can't even see a link to the rules. No, you have to be, that's hilarious. All right. So, so if you go into SSW, and up here in the title is our rules here. You can click on that and we'll see all the rules. And here they all are. Now, and there's the one that Piers just did an hour ago. Now, there's the ones I'm talking about, the ones at the top here. And if you want to, you can ask, instead of this UI of clicking in here and going through, you can use this ChatGPT system. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, how to use this and how we built it. And you're going to have something similar probably in everything you use. Your company with a massive intranet, you're going to have a different UI to interact with it. All right, so let's talk about getting up to speed with GPT, the service underneath what we've just been talking about. It's a large language model. How do you find out what GPT is? You ask it, right? 5 dot points about GPT. It'll tell you it's a generative pre-trained transformer. The transformer is the magic. The T in GPT is the magic. The transformer is what it does. It predicts the next thing. So as we converse, I just said something, which triggers me what to say next. And then that forces me to say what I'm saying after that, right? That's kind of how it works. It just generates the next word based on what I've done before. And Google invented this themselves, actually, and were too gutless to release it because it could have caused bad things. This cool thing they released could start saying mean things or being racist or giving false information or whatever it does. And then they could have had a problem. But OpenAI were a little company. They had nothing to lose, so they go for it. It's pre-trained on massive amounts of text. It can generate human-like text by predicting the next probable word. And it has state-of-the-art natural language processing and language generation and translation and understanding. So OpenAI created this. It's 7 years old. And it's 49% owned by Microsoft. The most popular way to use it is a little bot, which is hilarious because the OpenAI team was large and they had a little guy in the corner, one single guy working on the bot, just for fun, just to see how we'd kind of use it. And Sam Altman didn't even know that was going to be a big deal and a big way that people would interact with it. Okay, so there's also the OpenAI. And this bit, the API, the engine underneath ChatGPT, is the gold. So we're going to use this best API that we've ever used, and probably likely you've ever used. It's going to give natural language processing, image generation, and speech recognition. Now, what is the engine, the specific name of the natural language processing? How many people know? No one? Okay, it's called GPT-4. Okay, what's the image generation? Anyone? DALL-E 2 specifically. And the speech recognition one? Whisper. Okay? They're the engines underneath. All right, cool. So what you would need to do now, if you're keen to follow along, but you don't need to, is you need to get your own key. So you'd go to this URL to get your own key, and you can scan this to go to that URL. So you can grab that. It will take you to a UI like this, and you'll click a button that says Create New Secret Key. When you click that, you will type in something here. So for us, we typed in SSW Rules, and we click Create Secret Key, and now we have that. You're going to all probably end up doing this to use some of these extensions, okay? Because you're using your key so they know that you've used up all the tokens, because this is expensive. Using this is crazy expensive. Okay, so then you've got your key, whatever that key is, and you're going to copy it. Now, if you're going to come up with a solution, you need to decide whether you're going to use OpenAI or Azure AI. So if you're using the AD, if you're using Azure's one, you'll need to put in your key here with this code. Or so that's the OpenAI, and that's the Azure one, right? So basically a little bit different, okay? That's just the starting point. Now, the way we did it, and you can look at our example here, we wanted you to get the best results, okay? But this is open to the world to use. So should we just make it based on the free API or the expensive API and get better results? Well, we could have this Slashdot or put on CNN or something, and then all of a sudden we've racked up a monster bill that we wouldn't be expecting. So the way we did it is we used the free key, but we give you the ability to come into Tools Options, and you can enter your API key, and then you'll be using your API key with us. So I even put there. So see that? Fast but prone to hallucinations, or slow and smart. Okay? So you don't really want to use anything that's not using GPT-4, honestly. You're wasting your time. You get too many silly responses. It's a big L for liar sometimes. Now, these are the 6 things you now have to decide what to do when you're building a solution. You need to know, where am I going to host this thing? You got 2 choices. I've got to understand the API a little bit. It's not very complicated. I need to understand what a token is, because you're going to be using up tokens. I need to know what the temperature is. You go, what the hell is that? I'll tell you. And what is the playground and system message and embeddings? So these are kind of the 6 major things you're going to learn that you won't be used to. How many people here kind of know all these 6 things? Okay. All right. Cool. So not many. All right. So hosting. You can use OpenAI, which runs on Microsoft's cloud, actually, or you can use Azure OpenAI Service, which is a different API, but it's basically the same. But it's using their models, but you can do a lot more with security and other things. So you got to make a choice which one you're going to run on. And for Microsoft shops like us, we choose Azure, although they're both using Azure. Obviously, OpenAI had a problem. They needed a a cloud, a really strong cloud, and they probably had to choose between Microsoft and AWS. And then they made a deal. In fact, they went and demoed it to Bill Gates, I think at his house or something like that. There's a whole podcast about it, which I found fascinating to listen to. Now, which one is cheaper? Well, the billing is almost identical. There's not much difference. Now, for some finely tuned models, Azure is cheaper. For these massive workloads, there's a blog post on this. In certain circumstances, it's cheaper. There's not a massive difference. There is also, if you use Azure's one, you get all these first-party integration with .NET. You get these NuGet packages. It's kind of friendlier. And Azure has more and more security and scalability options than OpenAI. Okay, you got things like Azure Virtual Networks, Azure Key Vault, and Azure Monitor, Azure AD, etc. I should say, what's the new name for Azure AD? Anyone remember? Oh, that marketing worked, didn't it? We can't remember. We know it, don't we? We know it got changed. Starts with E, doesn't it? Okay, well, yeah. Well, it's too modern to ask ChatGPT. Okay, anyway, I was saying before that Azure had a waitlist. They got rid of the waitlist. And OpenAI had it instant for 3.5, but as I just told you with the new news, the waitlist for GPT-4 is gone if you're a paying member. Okay, so forget about the waitlist. Now, give me a short summary, because you can use Bing to do the same thing. Give me a short summary of the key differences between the OpenAI API and the Azure OpenAI service in 5 dot points. With 1 sentence each, because I need it just simple. Don't give me detail. And you'll look down here and you'll see probably the most important one is I would say, the ability to encrypt data within the service with your own keys. That's probably the big one. Anyway, there's a few other things there too. Okay, so then you need to next go off to, now you've chosen what you're going to host with, let's go off to the documentation. Okay, you go off to the documentation and you go, wow, so what's there? So you can create a chat completion, and you can basically request a model and get the messages. So there's the model and there's the messages. So you can look at this documentation and see it all, but there's just really model and messages, and when you get back a message, it will tell you whether it's the system or the user or the assistant. So if I'm the user and I type in a message, I'm the user. If I get back a message, that's the assistant, and the system message, we're going to come to that. Do you remember that we talked about custom instructions? The default stuff that you send with everything, that's the system. So we're going to see that. And there's the content and there's the name. All right. The third thing to worry about is tokens. So it has a maximum number of tokens. So like if we send a question, like our users will send a question such as something, and I'll just go and give it an example. So I can come in here and say, so at our company, when you make a mistake, like an email, we send a version 2. Okay, it's a little bit different than other companies. We don't correct the original email. We don't go back and reply and say, oh, sorry about the mistake below. I meant to say we do, not we don't, or whatever. We just send a new email that says version 2. But people might be confused how to do that. How do I send a version 2? And that, as you can see, that's using GPT 3.5. I could go back and switch over here to use GPT-4. And then it will give me an answer here and what to do. Okay, here's you do it. Now, the most important thing I would prefer is a link to the actual rule where it got this, and GPT-4 does that. Okay, so now what do I pass into GPT to give me a good answer? Well, the more you pass in, like all the rules would be good, but you have limits. You got this token limit. So what's the token limit? It's essentially each word is a token. Now, that's not very accurate. As you can see, tokenizing is 2 tokens, but most are one. See, ambiguity here is 1 word, accurate 1 word. See this one, interconnects, that's actually 3 tokens. But anyway, you don't need to worry about this too much. It's 1 word per token, basically. Now there's a limit. The limit is 4,000 tokens. So, for example, if you want to get it to write a long email for you, you must pass it a small amount of instructions, so it's got a lot of space to send you a long email. So if you wanted to, if you give it a long email to read and say, give me a response, you're only going to be able to get a short response because you're using up all the tokens in the whole email thread. Now, 4,000 tokens isn't much, but if you use GPT-4, you get 8,000 tokens. Okay, there's also another version, GPT 4.32, which gives you 32,000 tokens. Now, look, I'm going to also tell you there's been an update where we now have GPT 3.5, which is giving 16,000 tokens as well. Okay, but really, this is the one to use. Alrighty. I should tell you, look, this is probably a transitory problem. You can just imagine in a year or two's time, this is probably going to be a gig that you can send. Okay. Now, the next thing to learn about is temperature. What is temperature? Temperature is a value between 0 and 2. And if you look at this, you will see down the bottom here, see this bottom when you're talking to Bing? How many people here have talked to Bing with the AI services? Wow, hardly anyone, less than 10%. Okay, so I think this will be the main reason to get off Google, because this is awesome. And I think that the more you use it, like I personally have essentially stopped using Google. I'm using it almost none, because GPT is giving me what I need most of the time. Okay. I don't have to scroll through the ads. I get the response instantly. I don't have to click through, read stuff. It's basically giving me the answer. I can then verify it from there. So you've got these, see down the bottom here, choose a conversational style. That is more creative, more balanced, or more precise, depending on what you're doing. Now, we don't know what these numbers are, but we can guess, okay? These numbers are from 0 to 2, and it's controlling the creativity. And when it's really creative, it's 2. And when it's balanced, it's 1. And when it's really precise, it's 0. Now, when you start using this in the playground, you'll find that it can't be using 2 because it's so creative, it's ridiculous and it's unreadable, basically. It's just like ridiculous. And 2, it's way too precise unless it knows it for sure. So I'm going to guess, without knowing, that's about 1.8. Probably 1, and that's probably about 0.2. We don't know. Now, let me just give you an example. What is Adam Cogan from SSW doing today? It says, I'm sorry, I couldn't find what his plans are for today. So it's accurate, right? It says Adam is the chief architect of SSW. That's a certified partner specializing in Angular and .NET solutions. He's one of only 2 Australian Microsoft regional directors. Is there anything else you'd like to know? Okay, so it's as accurate as it can. So let's go to more balanced. What is Adam Cogan from SSW doing today? Basically the same. He's the chief architect. Unfortunately, I don't have any information on what he's doing today. Anything else I can help you with? Now, if I go more creative, just hazard a guess what he's doing. What is Adam Cogan doing from SSW doing today? Well, he's the chief architect. He specializes in custom .NET solutions. He's one of 2 Microsoft regional directors. He's also an MVP. He blogs at this. He interviews here. I don't exactly know what he's doing today, but according to his website, he's based in Sydney. So he might be working on some projects with his team or clients, or attending some events or meetings. He might be swimming at Bondi Icebergs. I don't know where I got this from. Where he's a lifetime member. He seems busy and active. All right. So you can see it starts trawling around, not making stuff up, but getting information from more places. Okay, maybe I'm on the Bondi Iceberg side or something. All right, so here's the playground. So now you know that, the basic ways to use it. The next bit to worry about is the system message. So when you are using it in the playground, so this is the Azure AI Studio, and this is the playground. You've got the chat and completions and DALL-E. In here, the most important thing is this bit. Okay, so see this system message? You're going to populate that system message for your service. So imagine you're trying to set up a solution that I just showed you on the Rules GPT chatbot. You will probably feed in all the data from the intranet or something like that. But you need a good system message. So let's talk about that one. So this system message tells you what you should put in here. So there's also the OpenAI playground, and this is how it kind of works. The user just types a simple message. How do I write a V2 email? Imagine if you type that on ChatGPT. It's barely going to know what this is about, and it's not going to give you a good answer. Okay, so when they ask that question, we pass in information, and this is the information we pass in. You're an SSW bot. You're helpful and friendly and funny, with a penchant for emojis. You will be using emojis throughout your responses. You'll answer the queries that users send in, summarize all reference data without copying it verbatim. Keep it humorous, cool, and fresh. Okay? Tell a relevant joke here and there, you know. Now, with regards to this is the information you need to know. The reference data, now it's got, where did it get all this from? Well, you can paste it in manually each time. But that's not going to work, is it? So we have to talk about how that's going to be auto-generated each time. But that's what we did for this, for just testing, because this is just a playground for testing. We type that in, we paste that, we hit submit, and then it will give you the answer that you saw. Sometimes you'll need to send a V2 for two main reasons. Either you've received substantial feedback, or you made a mistake. Blah, 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 right? So you will be using this over and over and over again until you get responses that you like, and you'll keep modifying this until the answers that you want your users in your company to get. Okay, this is your playground. Now, I need to inform you of a few things that have been starting to come out now, which is all the bad things that can happen by a programmer making mistakes. Okay, as the programmer, you can let in the keys of the castle. I'll summarize this very quickly. And I'm going to thank Harry for throwing this in. Prompt injection and sensitive information disclosure. Okay, so we'll talk about that. The other one is insecure output handling and model denial of service. So these are things to worry about. Now, essentially, prompt injection is if they give a prompt and they get back important information about your company. You've got to guard against this. A lot of testing. You can expose your backend systems with cross-site scripting, remote code execution, etc. This is all potentially problematic. And also, they can just try to run you dry with running up your OpenAI bill very quickly by just smashing your service, like smashing our chatbot and just sending up a big bill. Okay, but I've already told you how we're getting against that. Okay, now we've just covered the hosting, the API tokens. You understand temperature now, and the playground and that system message. So there's one final thing I need you to understand: embeddings. How many people here have ever worked with a vector database? Okay, so only one person in the entire room. Okay, so we've been working with databases forever. We've worked with lots of them. SQL Server is our big one. Cosmos DB is another one. Postgres, we've worked with lots of databases, but the vector databases are new and special. So here was my business problem. I've got around 3,000 rules there. I get a lot of calls. Everyone's always trying to help ask me if we have any type of rule on this. I'm not very scalable. Could we combine the intelligence of ChatGPT with all our rules? That's all I wanted to do, and this is a similar problem that a lot of companies are going to have. We want our users to have a better time with search. Essentially, it's been a problem forever. Search doesn't work very well. That's why Google is so rich and so successful, because they did search better than Alta Vista and everybody else, and Bing. So how do I send a V2 email? you get back this response. This is how we do it. Now, by the way, as you can see, this is GPT-4 because it included a nice URL here to the rule and then a summary. Okay, now what we probably should do, if I think about this just now, we should say, and don't put the same URL in twice, because that's kind of distracting. You put it there and you put it there, okay? And that will, when you click on that link, it will take you here. So let's talk about the magic of this vector database, because we need to use embeddings and we need to know how to use that. So, embeddings. Now, I want you to know, when I create a presentation, I've never used Photoshop, so this is the image I would use because I just grab it off Google Images. That's how I write a presentation. But now I'm such a great designer, I can say, I can just give it a prompt, give me something that represents a vector database in SSW colors, and that's what I get. Okay? And then I tried a few other things and got a few other images. So, explain the concept of embeddings so simply that an idiot could understand. Not that I am one, this is merely a hypothetical exercise. Okay? So, you know, ChatGPT stores all my history, so I just want to make it for the record I wasn't an idiot, in case it keeps thinking of that every time it answers my questions. Imagine you have a box of differently shaped and colored Legos. You want to sort them in a way that similar pieces are close to each other. Embeddings are like placing these Legos on a table so that similar pieces are close together and different pieces are far apart. In this way, we can easily compare and find similar Legos, or in our case, words or other data, just by looking at their positions on the table. And I go, oh, okay. So this is my PowerPoint based on that explanation. I think, based on the shape and the color, it's talking about, well, a red circle would be here and a blue box would be over there, and somewhere in between that color system. I think that's what it's explaining. Now, I asked for another image of a vector database. This is the other image it gave. So this is clearly different from what is the picture in my head of that two-dimensional space. So you've got to understand it's not a 2D table. It's a 1,536 dimensional space. Okay? And it is it's a dimensional vector that's going to be stored in a database somehow. And if you remember back to high school maths where we learn about cosine, it's kind of trying to find things that are close together mathematically. So let's have a look at this sample here. The term daily scrum is a term because we do scrum. It appears on many of our rules. That piece of text goes into the model and it ends up with 1,536 numbers. Okay? So it stores each term in the vector database, okay? So now, here is another picture I got of Midjourney giving me an image, a graphical representation of a vector database, okay? So they're all giving different pictures. So what it does is it looks through my data source. My data source is all the rules. It looks through all that stuff and puts every single term into as a record in a database with all these numbers. Okay? Wow. Fascinating. Very, very different from what SQL Server does. Each query string generates an embedding vector, and then it will compare vectors. So I got Harry to give me a 2D representation of this. And this is all our rules. Okay? All our rules. That 1,500 dimensional database flattened down, and he has plotted every single one of our rules and where it goes. Okay? So the V2 email, there's two rules that talk about that a lot. But if we were to go to another term such as Scrum Guide, see Scrum Guide? We have so many rules that reference the Scrum Guide, why we do it a certain way, etc. And it could be any of these rules because all these talk about it in different ways. So obviously we're going to have to give more information than just the term Scrum Guide. Now, if you want to know how we did this or how Harry did it, he used some Python package he found, which reduced the embeddings from 1,536 dimensions down to 2, so we could read it. And obviously more red is higher cosine similarity. Okay? So it won't be a surprise to you that databases are starting to add all this vector functionality into it. Okay? This is going to be huge. Now, if you think about these embeddings, you have all these disorganized documents and you cluster them together and you form groups. So you in your company will have thousands, millions of documents. You will cluster them in groups of, say, technology, entertainment, sports, etc. Now, if you think about Google, this is how you can find information in milliseconds. It will group all the different content into different groups, and then it will use a something like a vector database to find it. And there's a blog here talking about how Google, YouTube, etc. find all their documents or videos in seconds. Now, you would have also noticed if you use Netflix, it will do recommendations. Like it'll find similar things. Like if you have just watched Breaking Bad, for example, it is going to recommend these ones across the bottom. So you watch Narcos, you'll get Surviving Escobar, all these other ones. Okay, that's because they're similar. Now, this is a fun thing that I learned. Because when they plot a term, it ends up with numbers. Whether you plot it in English or Chinese or French or whatever, they get very, very similar numbers. So, Sylvia, I trust you know Chinese. Fall. Does that say fall? Yes. So you can see that is plotting similar phrases. This is going to do wonders for, translation services, communication with people from completely different backgrounds. This is going to be amazing. What a beautiful side effect. And Callum, one of our AI engineers here, he did a funny little video that you can see on YouTube. I should put a link here. But he essentially used ChatGPT to output a response. He then used Google Translate, switch that to Chinese, put it back to see whether it could understand itself and give a similar response. Yeah, it was awesome. So now, how are you going to use it? Well, a bot has become a popular way of using that. Now, let's jump into the vector database. You can store or query from your embeddings, and you're using these built-in vector functions. And there's a whole bunch of them: Pinecone, Milverse, Postgres, etc. Now, if you're using Azure, which we are, then Postgres is a good option to choose. Okay. The rules one, we just did a quick and dirty sample. So we used a free one called Superbase, but you'll choose whatever database you want, as long as you support a vector database. Now, if you look at our database with every one of these rules, we had the rules turn into, there's your 1,500 embeddings for that particular piece of content. Now, because you've got limits, you're going to have to break up, in our case, some of the rules are really long. We're going to have to break those up into smaller sections. So it's very efficient. It's amazing. And you can now, once you've done all the work that I've just done, you can now set it up so that your GPT solution is using the vector database, so it's on demand. So let's have a look. So let's have a look at how we did it with our rules bot that you just saw. How do I send a V2 email? It will give you an answer. Ahoy there. So you want to know how to send a V2 of your emails. No worries, I've got you covered. As per this rule, here are the steps. Open your send items, click actions. On the first line of the email, put V2. If the email is a reply, then blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's it. Now, I do want to clearly show you that if you do the same questions, because we had to test 3.5 versus 4, how does SSW use GPT? Well, great question. SSW uses GPT in a variety of ways. Here it all is. Now, this one is, I would say, a terrible response. This one, the exact same question in 4, just have a look at the different response. Now, I know it costs more to run, but it's very clear in its answers. It's using nice bullet points, and it puts a link here as well to a video. And it's more friendly, which is what we kept asking it to be. We really want it to be friendly. So let's have another look. What does some of the best ways to implement Scrum within your company? That might be a question. 3.5 says, all right, here you go, and here's some answers. And 4 says, here you go, here's some answers. And it clearly had, it was a little bit more humorous. Want a joke to lighten up? How did the Scrum Master become a gardener? Because they love to weed out problems and help teams grow. Okay, not the world's best joke, but at least it's trying to be humorous. Now, how about something spiritualist? Like, we don't have any rules to woodworking. Show me rules to better woodworking. And it goes, sure thing, I'm happy to help. Here's a link. Well, that link is a BS answer. We don't have any, it just makes crap up. It's very frustrating. I don't want stuff like this in my solution to my company, and most companies won't. So let's ask the same question with GPT-4. Show me some rules to better woodworking. Oh, oi, would you look at that? You see how it's spelled wood? It seems like we don't have any specific rules on woodworking in our reference data, but hey, don't worry. Here's some general tips to sort you out with your woodworking journey. Number 1, safety first. Wear safety goggles. Number 2, keep your workspace clean and organized. Number 3, measure twice, cut once. Number 4, invest in good quality tools. Number 5, learn from the pros. Watch woodworking tutorials. Okay, but see how it didn't put any, it went off and found some information, and it didn't give any BS responses. Okay? Happy with that? Yeah, I think you can see them. We've done a lot of testing on this on so many different scenarios. Just save yourself some heartache. Don't worry about 3.5. Okay, and here's another one. Draft an email asking a colleague to change some content on their people profile. It gives you a response. It doesn't try to add any humor, and it gives a wrong URL, even for something we have. So here's the better answer for the same question. It gives a nice, look at this. It actually drafts an email for you. Do this, and and it tries to be friendly. Okay, so there you go. It's just so many scenarios it's better. So now this is what you should do. Go to that URL, which I've done, supply your OpenAI API key, and then start asking it questions, and you'll see some great responses. So what's happening under the covers when you type in your question? You put in your user prompt. Our API calculates the closest matching rule, and by looking up the embeddings database, the vector database. Then we pass in our system prompt. With our system prompt, it gives the top 10 similar rules to what you just asked, because we don't know the exact answer. And then we send over to ChatGPT, the API, the system message and the user message. And then we get back the response, and our UI shows it. Now, I need you to know, what did we do this in? Well, we built this in Next.js first, because that was going to be good. And then we rebuilt it in Blazor. So this is actually a Blazor frontend, but it's a fairly simple UI, obviously. Now, I want to talk to you about costs, all right? Everyone stand up, because this is important. I want you to remember this. Stand up, because I know you've been sitting there for a while. Stretch a bit over to the left. Stretch over to the right. Even you guys way up in the back. Turn around without moving your feet. All right, hopefully your blood is working and we can talk about money now. So, all right, everyone sit down. Now, this is hard to estimate, because making estimates into the future when everything that we're doing is changing so dramatically is really hard. So let's just talk about some different solutions. This solution here, let's just say you have 2 developers, 2 weeks to build a solution like this. Let's just say they're $200 an hour. That's $32,000. Now you've got the ongoing cost of that OpenAI. So that could be $40 a month, okay? So it depends. This can vary widely, but this is really hard to estimate for customers, but you're going to have to come up with something, okay? Now, once you build it a few times, this is going to be quicker than this, obviously, and the OpenAI costs are going to massively depend on their usage. You know, some customers have 1,000 employees, some have, 100,000 employees. All right. I was just assuming here 100 employees, 2 uses per day. That was just some rough estimates. Now, just looking at our usage, just in the beginning when we just deployed this, looking to see what people were doing, we were getting this little bit of usage. Now, over time, this has got more popular because people get more used to using this. So it will grow depending on, that was May, okay? We're now in August. Now, I want to talk about a new option. I call this the Viking option, okay? Now, this is a brand new, but there is the Power Platform that Microsoft released, and that has Power Automate, which does flows. There is Power BI, which does amazing reports. There's Power Apps, which builds mobile apps. They also have something called Power Virtual Agents. I wish they had called it Microsoft Power Bots. That would have been a better name. I should join marketing. But yeah, Power Virtual Agents is a low-code way of building a solution. Now, even in our company where almost every single one of our employees is a .NET developer, we are doing more and more Power solutions. Companies come and say, can I have that solution done using, say, can we use Dynamics as the database? Can we do that piece of logic using flows? Can you do the front end with Power App? Many of the times we can't use Power Apps because of what they're asking, because it's pretty constrained. But a lot of it you can build on this stuff. Now, let's talk about this brand new one, Power Virtual Agents, which has been around for a while, but it's changed a little bit. I will just play this.
Power Virtual Agents is continuing our mission of making powerful bots incredibly simple to build. As Microsoft's extensible SaaS bot building studio, we allow professional developers and low-code users to work together in a unified, intuitive authoring canvas. And now, with the power of generative AI, bot building will never be the same. Let's look at Holland America Cruise Lines, an existing Microsoft customer who are exploring using Power Virtual Agents to transform customer experiences for their passengers. They can simply sign up for Power Virtual Agents, create a bot with a click, and point it to the Holland America website. That's it. With just that one step, the bot is instantly useful and can have rich, multi-turn conversations over the sources provided. I can also add multiple sources of knowledge, such as documents on internal SharePoint sites, or configure how the bot behaves with advanced AI settings. Now all we've done is point to a website, and we now instantly have a pretty useful bot. Since Power Virtual Agents is a full end-to-end SaaS service with no infrastructure to deploy or maintain, I could publish this live to my support site or other channels with a single click, and my users could be chatting within minutes. But I also want to craft some very specific conversations for business-critical topics. Say, I want users to check their existing reservation status. I can quickly get started by simply describing the topic I want to build, and Power Virtual Agents Copilot will generate an entirely new topic for me like magic. I can now continue to use Copilot to iterate on the topic, or simply use Power Virtual Agents' new state-of-the-art graphical dialogue builder. From adding photos, videos, and interactive conversational cards to calling back-end Holland America APIs with hundreds of pre-built and custom connectors, to parsing and manipulating data and variables with Power Effects, to capturing and responding to external events. All these conversational tools and more are at my fingertips. Since Power Virtual Agents is designed for low-code users and professional developers alike, it makes it incredibly easy for Fusion teams to collaborate together with powerful multi-authoring capabilities. Developers can use the built-in code side-by-side editor to add APIs or actions to the bot, trap and trigger events, manipulate data and variables, and even connect to Azure through Cognitive Services, Lewis, Enterprise GPT, and more. So in this case, the last step needed is to call the reservation system and check the status of my ticket. I'll use some of those collaborative features and tag one of Holland America's pro developers to ask them to add some API calls for the Holland America reservation system into the bot's plugin library so I can use it in my topic. My developer sees my comment and spends a few minutes adding some backend APIs for the reservation system into the bot's plugin library. And now I can simply add the new reservation plugin to my topic and write it up. I hit save and voila, I can check the status of my reservation. We could of course continue to build more topics manually for other common needs, one for booking management, one for searching for cruises, and so on. But with GPT, the process can be entirely transformed. Let's see how. Say a customer is interested in booking a last-minute cruise to the Bahamas. We haven't built a topic for that yet, but with our new GPT-powered conversation engine, the bot can understand the user's request and build a plan to fulfill the request. It understands it needs the custom connector action plugin to return the reservation options to the Bahamas and the pre-built MSN weather plugin to return the forecast. It then self-assembles and chains them together, and I can see the system's reasoning in the new testing experience. The bot recognizes a destination and time have already been provided by the user. With that, it can answer the weather portion of the request. But it sees the input for the departure port is missing, which is required to complete the call to the reservation system. So the bot uses GPT to automatically ask for it. The bot now has everything it needs to complete the action, and the user is shown the cruise options from Miami to the Bahamas next week. We built no new topics by hand to support this request. The bot figured out how to chain together the reservation system APIs that my developer colleague had added earlier, combine them with other connector plugins, and then ask any remaining questions to satisfy the user's request. This is a complete transformation in bot building. Bot authors no longer need to build and curate hundreds of dialogues for every question a user may ask. Instead, you just point the system to the right knowledge sources, point it to your existing tenant APIs and other plugins, and the bot will do the rest. Between answering user questions by chatting over proprietary company information to dynamically changing APIs and plugins to take action and complete user requests, bot building is changed forever with Power Virtual Agents and Azure OpenAI services. Try it now at aka.ms/trypva.
All right. I think you got a very good picture of what they're doing. It is brand new, just been released. We don't even know pricing specifically when it's using the OpenAI services, but we know this looks promising. Now, I'm going to guess pricing. I could be wildly wrong, but I need to guess to talk to customers about what they should do in the future. So you saw how easy it is. This is a very different way than what I've been showing all night. This is a completely low-code approach. You come in, you click try the unified canvas, which is not in preview anymore. You set it up, you give it a name, you put the URL in, and then you'll get some answers straight away. You know, what beverages, it's looking at the URL, it's indexed everything, it's good to go. So you then create those plugins that you can add extra pieces of logic. You saw an example with the weather, and you can put in here the weather and get certain inputs and outputs, and you'll be good to go. Now, if anyone's used the old PVA, which was quite, this was kind of the do-it-yourself style of working on what it's doing, it's very different. This is the way it works now. So you put in your question, what's the last minute cruise options? And it will say, well, I don't have the port of departure. So it works it out, and then it says, well, here's the weather. Where are you departing from? So it'll ask the missing piece of information that it doesn't know to be able to use this. Okay? So this is kind of its debugger. If you think about this, it's a little bit like this. Any people remember this from SQL Server days? Okay, yes, this is our favorite query plan just to work out whether it's using an index or scan or whatever. So you now have this guy. So you'll have a tracing model to see what it's doing to get a bit of a way of how it's executing to help you change the plugins or the statements that you want to support. Now, what would be the cost if you did it this way? Look, I've just got to take guesses here. But let's just say 2 developers, and I'm going to say 2 days at $200 an hour to get this up and running. Now, I feel a bit bad saying this because you can really get it up and running in an hour. But, you got to talk to the customer, explain and do all the other stuff. But, you can probably have a long lunch and have a good time. But that's going to cost them $6,000, including, consulting and trying to make sure, and also working out where all their data sources are coming from. But then you've got the ongoing cost. This is where it gets fuzzy because we don't exactly know, but let's assume it's $200 a month, and the GPT edition, which we don't know yet, is, say, $2,000 per month for, say, 4,000 sessions. You don't know how heavily it's going to be hit. You don't know much, but you do know that this is a very small upfront cost to get it up and running. You can probably just get one of your power people that don't even code just to get this thing up and running, okay? And then it's the power virtual agents, its intelligence. So if you just look at the numbers, to build a custom solution like I've done tonight is $43,000. To do that power virtual agent is $20,000, okay? Depending on lots of different factors. And obviously trying to look 3 years in the future is very hard because everything's going to change. But anyway, that gives you an idea. This is going to be way more flexible. This is going to be instant. If you add in GPT of this can get quite expensive depending on how Microsoft end up charging us for this. This is going to be slightly cheaper because there's not going to be as big a margin added to it. So there it is. We got a lot done with that low-code solution, very little effort. Now, we've covered all these things. I think you learnt a ton tonight. You know that the low-code solution that I just showed you doesn't need you to understand any of that stuff I taught you. That was a waste of time, wasn't it? And instead of the playground and system message, you'll be using a PVA Studio as I just showed you. Okay. Now, the custom is upfront dollars, but more flexibility. The low-code solution is less upfront dollars, probably more of a monthly cost, much less to maintain, very easy to maintain, where this one you're going to have to keep someone on staff that understands the system that can change it. I think the majority of our customers will probably want this because they're really fussy, but I also think plenty of customers that could have only gone with this will now go with this. Which one would you think for your customers? Do you think custom or PVA, first impressions? Who would go with custom? The hard work, the way I've just talked about it tonight. Okay? All right. And who would go with the low-code solution? Wow. So we've got probably 80% of the room going with this and 20% of the room going with this. That's amazing. All right. So if you want to avoid the monthly cost of PVAs, well, what you could do is build an MVP in the PVA quickly, build a custom solution after that. And, I think that's highly likely you're going to do both. So I can just imagine turning up to a customer, they definitely want to do a custom, and we'll say, all right, but just today we'll show you what you're getting in the low-code one while we build that out. And, they're probably going to have problems with their data sources, and it buys you a little bit of time. Okay, so what's the future? Let's talk about the future very quickly. We've got this AGI coming on, zero input required from us. You can then tell AI to do everything. You can tell it to write you an entire book. You can tell it to develop a full software application. Okay, this is where things get scary. Google, Meta, IBM are doing lots of cool stuff. There is one company I don't think we're talking about, and that's Tencent, and I think you should be thinking of them. They're a Chinese juggernaut. They're very solid, they're doing some crazy stuff, and they have a completely different data set as well. So you've got this Auto GPT, which you give it a broad task, build me a website. It will break it down and execute each task until you've got that site. So it can write code, it can push code, it can run commands such as build and test, it can get feedback and then fix its own code. It can then feed its own output and make new input. So it can go round in circles. You've got a developer over here. He defines the PBIs or the tasks. You've got the product owner who might do it as well, and probably the CEO will just boot out, the other people and just do it himself. And then you've got the GPT agent, and that will pick up those PBIs as long as they're well defined. Maybe we will need developers because based on our customers, they usually need a developer to instruct properly. It will then ask follow-up questions. It'll push the code, and then the developer will need to review that code. Otherwise, you're going to have some crazy stuff going on. And, so you're going to, even in every world, I can't see any world where there's not somebody fixing craziness. Sam Altman said, I think we're at the end of the era where it's going to be these giant models. I love how these amazing people today speak like these giant models. Anyway, he's basically saying these big things like Bard and ChatGPT and things like that, we're going to have specific AI models from here on in. You'll have a specific one for, X-rays, or even more specifically pancreas X-rays or whatever. So I hope you enjoyed tonight. We went through a whole lot of news, how to be a good prompt engineer, how the engine works underneath, and how we built our bot, and how cool a vector database is. And we don't know exactly what the future is going to hold. Basically, that API that we've been talking about tonight is the most amazing thing. It's going to help everyone do everything. And from here on, we can spend some time doing woodworking. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions. You want to scan that, you can. And if you want one of these amazing cheat sheets that Seth did, feel free to collect it. Yes.
So I've got some questions for you, Adam.
Okay.
The first question is, new regulations might affect companies that have already used AI in their solutions. Should we plan for and expect that, or proceed as if they will always be open to us?
That's a loaded question. So look, the rules are going to change. There's going to be a lot of disputes about copyright and things like that, right? I think that the genie's out of the bottle. You even saw a first attempt by Italy to shut down this from their country, and it wasn't very liked. It wasn't a popular thing for a politician to do, and they opened it up with a couple of caveats. There's definitely going to be changes, but I would be very wary to be a pessimist in this while everybody else runs away with knowledge. It's better to grab this knowledge now, like you're doing tonight. We're all learning, and picking this stuff up and using it to your benefit. They'll throttle things back. I can't imagine which areas, but it's going to impact us. But I wouldn't stop it. I wouldn't have that mindset to not move forward.
Next question. Do you think all companies will have AI chatbots that will be able to quickly search for answers?
Short answer is yes. I think almost every company out there will have a chatbot. It'll probably end up being one of the things that employees think about. They want an AI chatbot. They're not going to, you wouldn't go to a company that doesn't have, say, Microsoft Office, that made you use some terrible one that you don't like. Let's just say, employees will choose companies with cool tech. maybe companies will give out GPT-4 licenses, but it's very important that employees aren't doing busy work. They won't want to do that. So yes, and people won't go to websites without this type of interface as well.
Do you think we are just in an AI bubble?
There's definitely a lot of hype there. Yes, you could call this a bubble, and there'll be the AI bomb, the bust. We've been doing this for 30 years. We've been through a few overexcited stages, and the dot-com bust was a very good example. 2009 wasn't a great time. There's been some other bad times too. There'll be people who invest too much money in this, and we haven't got we're going to fall flat in our faces a few times. But I think I would just be wary and don't throw the entire business on this, but you'd be not being prudent if you're not spending some money on this.
You've given lots of examples of different roles that will transition to prompt engineers. Taking the example of the developer, what's something that ChatGPT is not going to be good at?
What is ChatGPT not going to be good at? Yes, not good at maths. Yes, and I think it's important for us to understand why it's not good at maths as well, because it's just generating text on things it's seen. So if you throw in a big random number and another big random number that it hasn't seen, it's not going to be any good at calculating that. But you're going to have extensions that pick that up and give the right answer, etc. That's a transitory problem. I think that I focus more on what it's going to be good at, and that is you will never suffer like writer's block, or you can't have access to, your boss won't get you a CSS trainer to train you on this project where you're going to need CSS. Like, it's going to help you on almost everything you can. It's just like getting the internet. Like, what is the internet bad at? Probably plenty, but we use it for what we can, and it's just going to make us all smarter quicker.
For business owners uncertain about where to utilize GPT, what are the top areas you would suggest?
I would say every area that a business is investing in, they should run it through ChatGPT just to validate assumptions. I think that's the most important thing to be doing. And as I've done, every employee should be trained and encouraged to use it, so they know when to use it and when not to use it. You shouldn't have an employee that can't use Google well. A good developer is not a good developer if they can't Google stuff. The best developers are very good at finding bugs quickly, and they find bugs finding solutions to bugs by being good at Googling. And the same thing, you can use ChatGPT and be terrible at it. We had to change our employment tests because our employment tests were pretty easy to pass with ChatGPT. So we had to change them to deal with this. I think certain industries, like the education industry, are really screwed because you can't give a take-home exam anymore and know that kid is going to do it at all. So you need new methods of testing people, which can only be good because you're going to basically need to interview them and ask what their paper means, or it can only be good to help us be better communicators.
What would you say to people that are worried about being made redundant by GPT?
No, that's a voluntary problem. There's definitely people going to be made redundant for very basic stuff. Generating text. You don't need a lot of people to be writing you copy in a company anymore. To a degree, people generating images that can be auto-generated as well. you've got to know this stuff, and they're not going to get rid of people that know how to do their job well and be a good prompt engineer.
I've heard that Bard is better than GPT for certain tasks. Should we be switching between language models depending on the task?
Probably yes. I would right now say get good at ChatGPT because it's clearly the better one, but still keep trying it. I would talk to Seth and some of the others because they've been playing around with all of it. Seth, do you use Bard at all? Rarely, yeah. And he's using it all day long, every day. And we have a weekly meeting where we just talk about what each person, this is just a small group of people from different cities and different countries where they join, and they're talking about what they've used it for and which one gave good answers, trying to work out the best way in their jobs to be using this stuff.
And finally, are SSW Facebook jokes sourced from GPT? I'm suspicious now.
Everything we do is sourced from GPT these days. I don't know about the jokes. Do you know, Seth? Some of them are, yes, okay. I'm sorry if they're bad jokes. They're programmers' jokes. They're meant to be bad. Yes, that's right. So, any other questions from the real audience, not the online audience? Gregory, you must have a question.
I've got it again. All right. So my question is, do you think this AI will make people lazier or less skilled? So you might have high achievers, and I feel like it's going to bring everybody down to like an average, and you don't really have to stand out yourself, and it will stop or stimulate, I don't know, individuals or effort. It's almost like a socialist influence on, I don't know. I see this as something has some really strong points and some negatives as well.
Yeah, definitely has fingers. I think the thing that I'm most worried about is if you see the usage of, say, Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a place that every developer went to get answers, right? They'd go, they'd look at the answers, they'd often contribute an answer of what worked or didn't for them. But now you have ChatGPT, which is sourced from, say, Stack Overflow and everywhere else. You ask it a question, it helps you. You use Copilot, it helps you. There is nothing particularly triggering you off to the site where you sign in, where you get a point, where you rate things up and down. And if that continues, then you have a site which is the source not getting improved all the time. I'm sure these will get sorted, but yes,
it's just the plain English. Write me an API that does this. It doesn't require you to know about all work. Links. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that was a great night. Thank you very much. And we'll let the online crowd disappear while we watch the soccer.